Kirby Air Riders is now out, and you guys probably seen my video last week talking about the end of the game and how crazy the ending was for a Kirby racing game. Of course, it's Kirby though, we know its endings are always wild and nuclear for a little pink guy. But let's actually discuss this story a lot deeper and go into the implications that it actually offers, because it actually adds more to the Kirby lore, believe it or not, for just being a Kirby spin-off. So all this information comes from Road Trip, the main single player mode. If you haven't finished it and seen the true ending, you might not want to watch this video. But real quick before we get started, we are still on our way to 400,000 subs, but we are super close to 380, only about 3,000 away, so you guys can make this happen by leaving a like and subscribing. Let's see if we can reach 380k within the next couple of days. So thank you guys so much for your support, and let's dive into the lore of Kirby Air Riders. So a long time ago, a living machine known as Zora was traveling through space. Now, we don't have a clue as to why, who Zora even was, but some type of random cosmic drifter that's just been out there flying around as a meteorite. Now clearly Zora is covered in rock, debris, crystals, and lots of wiring and pipes coming from him, as if he was ripped from what seemed to be maybe a bigger machine from wherever he came from. Perhaps he was created by some alien race in another world, then discarded, or something happened to that alien race in their world which caused the machine to fly through space. But wherever this is from, whether it be the ancients or just some random people, he finally crash lands on planet Popstar a long time in the past. Now, Zora sat there for what felt like an eternity. Now, remember that he actually is fully conscious here. He can't move and he just can't do anything about it. He just has to sit here and just live life as Planet Popstar flourishes over the years. Now, as Zora sat there alone and immobile, he actually made a wish that he'd be able to move freely. Now, in the world of Dream World and Planet Popstar, wishes are pretty dangerous because they can actually be granted. The Fountain of Dreams presides over all dreams, and it picked up on Zora's wish, which amplified it even further into space to the satellite known as Galactic Nova. Now, if this is your first time seeing Galactic Nova, you probably didn't play the original Kirby Superstar or the remake Kirby Superstar Ultra on the DS. The story was nothing crazy. In fact, it was literally because the sun and moon were fighting one day. Marx, some strange new creature, comes up to Kirby and says, "Hey, you should make a wish for the Galactic Nova to stop all this fighting." So in order to do that, you have to go around collecting these power stars, Mario style, in order to get the Fountain of Dreams to amplitude a wish up to Galactic Nova. Now clearly we don't have to collect those stars anymore to make a wish because Nova didn't do any of that. He just made a wish, so clearly this was a one-time event where Kirby goes throughout the galaxy into multiple neighboring planets and collects these stars. So it seemed like these rainbow stars actually summoned a black hole in time to rift in Galactic Nova, and once they did that, he's pretty much just here to stay. Kirby tries to make a wish for the sun and moon to stop fighting before Marx pulls up, knocks Kirby out the way, and makes his own wish to control Planet Popstar. This was all ploy for Marx to actually be the ruler of Popstar. He actually got the sun and moon to fight somehow and only needed Kirby to do the dirty work, summoning in Galactic Nova. He gets his wish and turns into a creepy entity, and to grant Marx's wish, he decides to just ram himself into Planet Popstar. And I don't know how that's necessarily granting his wish to be ruler of Popstar, where he's just destroying Popstar before Marx can even rule it. So I don't know. But Kirby uses the power of the stars that he's collected to create the Starship, which he rides all Kirby Air Ride back in the day, and he destroys Galactic Nova from the inside out and then makes his way to defeat Marx in his new monstrous form. Doing so, he flings Marx into the Galactic Nova where it completely detonates and is destroyed. But it's a Kirby game. No one ever dies. I mean, he returns in Star Allies and even the game we're talking about, Kirby Air Riders. And of course, that means Galactic Nova seems to have come back as well. Now, to not confuse you too much, I did want to add that there is technically another Galactic Nova in a way, but this one is an artificially made one created by Professor Haltman, president of the Haltman Corporation, just an evil alien CEO from another planet that tries to roboticize other planets. He used plans that he found from the ancients in order to recreate his own Nova, and it's powered by a giant supercomputer known as Stardream, who's able to use space-time warps and technology in order to grant wishes. But we're here to talk about the main guy, Galactic Nova, and we can tell that this seems to be the similar one because it even has a giant hole above its right eye, or technically its left eye, where it looks like that's the one Kirby blew up when it escaped the facility. All we know about this guy is it is a sentient machine like Nova, but was created by the Ancients, which is a race that's created some pretty crazy technology in the past. But we learned something pretty interesting about Galactic Nova here. His inside is full of worker bots, little construction drones that actually create these wishes. So this isn't just a magical wish, poof, here it is thing. which did look like that's exactly how Marx transformed in the first place, but perhaps worker drones actually constructed the pieces and parts in order to build his wings. For some reason, it just made him go crazy once they attached him, since he already had evil in his heart. Now, at first glance, you might think that maybe Nova is just like a bad genie, where he's not necessarily evil, and he's not necessarily good either, he's just neutral, and he grants wishes, but sometimes in the most ironic ways. When Zora wished to be able to roam freely, all he wanted to do was move, but for some reason, Galactic Nova decides to make tons of machines, which is a lot more work, and just chuck them all on planet Popstar. These machines were only then activated once riders find them and touch them and share their will, where they'll then activate and become one with the rider. Shoot, even Magalore was having fun with it. But what does this have to do with Zora's wish? Well, he sends down some more worker bots and drones in order to construct a giant machine around Zora to actually allow him to move. Once again, all of this just seems extremely unnecessary, but he sends all these little drone spiders or ants or whatever you want to call them, drone worker bugs, in order to rip and shred his body apart. It looks like it's in pain and agony as it shouts out and blue light emits from its core. The drones rip him apart, and even the core itself, where the soul of Zora is actually able to escape. Over the next couple of days, they construct a giant machine known as Gigantus, but this time with a new red evil core. But Gigantus now had a mission to destroy the entirety of planet Popstar, but the only way it could do so is if it had the will of a rider, where it can then be strong enough to power up and be able to move around freely, and of course, wreak havoc on planet Popstar. Once again, why was any of this necessary? And it truly does now change my mind completely into believing that Galactic Nova is not neutral in all this. In fact, he's actually pretty evil, and this seems to maybe even be revenge for what Kirby did to him in Kirby Superstar. And of course, he couldn't get his revenge until someone made a wish. He's maybe programmed to only activate once a wish is made. But this doesn't explain at all how Nova's even back in the first place. But Nova then triggers Gigantus to send out a ping throughout planet Popstar, which will alert the strongest riders with the strongest wills, which just so happens to be the main characters that you play as and no one else. Now, as lots of the characters in the machine start making their way to Gigantus's ping, they are also being tested along the way. Nova will spawn copies of specific characters in order to challenge each raider machine. That way, if they can defeat them, their will is strong enough to continue forward and eventually awaken Gigantus. If not, the weak ones are thinned out. But as Gigantic is doing this, Zora is doing everything in his power to stop it. The soul of Zora escapes and warps and transforms into Nin10doland, a darker version of King Dedede that actually has his own wheelie bike. Now at first I wondered, why did Zora change into King Dedede? And does he have a way of actually seeing what's happening on planet Popstar, even being isolated in the desert for so long? Maybe he can still witness certain events in Kirby's timeline. For instance, this whole situation ties a really similar parallel to Kirby's adventure, where King Dedede is trying his best to stop Kirby from placing the Star Rod at the Fountain of Dreams, because doing so awakened a Nightmare who was imprisoned in the Fountain of Dreams. So it makes sense that he might want to copy what King Dedede tried to do so long ago, by defeating every rider and their machine on their path to get to Gigantus. And it makes sense also that Zora might feel really bad about this whole thing. He started all this by simply making a wish to be free and to move around freely, but he would not let the planet of Popstar, the one that he crash landed on, be destroyed because of his wish. But of course, while doing all this, there's one rider that slips through, and that's the rider that you choose to play through the story mode. After defeating Nin10doland multiple times and making your way to Gigantus, you actually cause the devastation of Popstar to begin. Now with Gigantus activated, you now have to shut him down by fighting him in a giant open desert battlefield. But the game has two different endings that you can get. This is the neutral ending, where it's the first one that you'll play through and the first one that you'll get, but it's not the true ending to the game. Gigantus is destroyed, and you have a race with Nin10doland or Zora to decide who gets the finishing blow. If Zora wins, you'll get a cutscene of him driving into Gigantus and blowing them both up in the action, but if you win, you'll actually save Zora into Gigantus yourself and detonating the evil machine. With this ending, Zora is pleased that the day is saved. He got his wish to be able to move freely, but his time is up now. He disappears without a trace, happy to have lived finally before dying. It's an incredibly sad ending that also shows Galactic Nova watching from above. His eyes closes as his job is finished and he goes to fly away. But we are here for the true ending because that's what I believe is the canon. Now to get this true ending, you have to complete the story mode with all of your machines. Now I'm not sure if this is just a bunch of machines that your character has on standby that just flies up in the air, I don't know, or is this other riders all coming in together with their machines? But either way, Gigantus grants access to all the machines and they allow him to power up to his full potential. Seeing this, Zora knows that he has no choice but to call in two legendary machines, one being the Dragoon from the skies and one being the Hydra from the ground. This time, Zora decides to actually help you and you'll ride alongside him in order to take out Gigantus. This time, Gigantus will be flipped up vertically pointing towards the skies, where Zora will then fly with his soul essence back into the machine that he started in. He'll then shoot a massive laser into the skies that then pierce Galactic Nova himself. Now as Zora is doing this, he's actually making a path for us to ride up to him in order to take out the Galactic Nova for good. And it seems as if Zora actually summons a machine for us, which is called Leo. It seems to be an organic life form, some sort of flaming lion that we're able to ride. Now no one really knows what's the deal with Leo. Where does he come from? Is he a part of Zora? What's going on here? Because Zora is currently firing the laser inside of Gigantus. So who is this? Well, Leo only appears in this specific ending once this specific situation happens. So why is that? Well, I asked a lot of you guys, and some of the common verdict is this seems to maybe be a piece of Zora, maybe some type of other part of his essence that was released at the same time, where part of him is in Gigantus and another part of him is created into this creature known as Leo. Now, if you look up the word Zora, it actually means dawn, light, or sunrise in Hebrew and Slavic origins. The name itself evokes themes of new beginnings, hope, and brightness. And all of these adjectives help to describe Leo. He's hope in the dawn of the last moments of Planet Popstar, and he's also a bright light, a sun, a fierce to be reckoned with. So perhaps this might be a glimpse or maybe exactly what Zora looked like from wherever he's from. Maybe this lion was originally Zora, or some creature that died on some other planet and his soul and essence was trapped into the machine that Zora was found in when traveling through space. But whatever Leo actually ends up being, we use him as the ultimate machine in order to reach the Galactic Nova. Well, on the way, Nova's not having it because he's summoning previous boss battles that were fought in Kirby's history, including one that we've never seen before, which is one gigantic Robo DDD, which we've seen variants of, but nothing necessarily canon in the mainline story for Kirby. Another creature he summons is Zero 2, which is a new digital form of Zero, the main antagonist from Kirby and the Crystal Shards. He summons a copy of Nightmare from Kirby's Adventure, which makes a lot of sense because he obviously had ties with the Star Rod and the Fountain of Dreams. And for Magolor, it looks like he's not even copied. In this game, it looks like they just take straight up Magolor and slap those wings on him again the same way Galactic Nova did in Kirby Superstar. In fact, when he dies, he doesn't teleport or disappear like the other bosses do. He just kind of falls to the ground. But finally, you make it to the inside of Galactic Nova, where then you reach the core. This boss battle is an obvious reference to Kirby Superstar, where we battled the core of Galactic Nova, or the nucleus that is, where we took out all these machines operating on the outside that are causing the shield generator to protect the nucleus, and we take them out in a similar fashion, but this time in all 3D and Kirby Air Ride fashion. With the shields down, it's now time to take out the heart nucleus, and once we do so, it is now defeated. Leo helps us to escape the Galactic Nova right before it detonates once again, hopefully this time not coming back. After the detonation, Leo then takes us back to Planet Popstar, and we can see Gigantus is completely destroyed back on the ground. Zora then flies back into his old core and rebuilds his body the same way it was when it crash landed, and he uses the machines in order to do this and to fly away as your character and Leo watches from the ground. Now perhaps if Leo is tied to Zora still, it's just a part of his essence, where part of it flies back away into the robotic form and the other half stays back as an organic life form that's able to move around freely. But I can't get past the look of Zora as well. He has this dark, eerie essence to him. If he was a clean soul, why would he look so dark and creepy all the time? It does make me wonder if maybe there's a reason he was imprisoned into a robotic form in space and sent drifting all alone. Maybe he did something really bad and feels horrible about it and wants to make retribution. What if this was punishment for what Zora did to wherever he was from, soaring aimlessly through space and crash landing on a bizarre planet and then spending an eternity just sitting on that planet, immobile, and then learning his lesson, making a wish to be free, but then that wish turning into a massive mistake that he must now fix himself. And maybe that's exactly what causes Leo to form in the first place. That's why he's mixed with blue flame and orange flame as well. It's a mixture of good and evil. The good that he is now and the evil that he once was, that's now overtaken by the new flame. Which would also explain the meaning of dawn, light, and sunrise. It's a new birth of who he once was. And looking even deeper, he has the same shade of blue eyes that Zora had in his core. So maybe this is a version of him that's now free. And I also think it's so interesting to know that Galactic Nova is just literally one big machine, and inside of him is just one big factory that makes all of these wishes from scratch. So yes, this clearly was built by somebody, and that somebody is probably, and with this creation, maybe the ancients realized that they created something that they could not control. Galactic Nova is not neutral. In fact, it's shown in this game that he does have evil intentions. But it's still just once again, yet another Kirby game down, making me really want to know more about these ancients. So I'm still really hoping the next mainline Kirby game does focus on these ancients and exactly who they are and why they created all these things in the first place. But that is the entire story to Kirby Air Riders. I thought it was pretty interesting for them to bring back Galactic Nova. I just wish that there was a reason why he's back, but you know what? It's a Kirby game. We really don't get reason as to why half the things are back. I mean, we saw Magalore go through purgatory before he eventually came back, so who knows what happened? But if you guys have any theories of your own, make sure you comment them down below. Maybe I missed something and maybe you have some more information that might tie some of these story bits together. But thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe before you head out, and I hope you all have a blessed day. See you guys.